Các bạn đã học cái chức năng ngân hàng cơ bản với lại là cái quản trị ngân hàng chưa? Hay là mới chỉ là xong hết cái balance sheet thôi à? Balance sheet tức là chỉ học xem là các cái cấu phần của nó là như thế nào gì?
Vâng
Hả
ạ.
các bạn? Okay, so now we will move to the basic banking and also the bank management to find out what will be the case for the bank to deal with the situation. We know that banks operating in kind of special industries dealing with the money, right? So we should be cautious and should be careful about the operation of the bank. If one bank fails, the worst case could be the entire system like will be broken down, and then the entire like financial system will be gone, and then the money of the people will be gone as well. So we need to be very cautious with the bank operation. That's why we need to understand what are their like basic banking operation, and so how do they manage to make their bank or run the business very smoothly and like well functioning. So I need to check on you a little bit about the balance sheet that you have learned, because we will deal with that one right now. So we have a T account over here. Chung Kian, all right, I will check for you. Kian, yeah, check already. The T account, I would like to draw again over here, and I need you like give me some of the items on the balance sheets of the commercial bank. We have liability over here and assets over here. And you will see something like at the bottom of the liabilities, right? Which is what is there at the end of this column? Do you remember? What do you have here? Hello, could you guys hear me?
Bank capital.
Yeah, right. Bank equity or bank capital. So thank you for that one. So it's like bank capital or bank equity is not the liabilities, right? It's about the money of the bank owners. And so it's not the liability, but why do they put here? That is the thing that I want you to remember at this point. When we talk about liability, we should refer it as sources of funds, right? More than considering it as liability, sources of funds for commercial banks. It's like, all right, I'm dealing with the money, so where do I get the money? So they will look at here in the right-hand side of the column of the T account, sources of fund. And in that sources of fund, we have the liability over here. This one, the true like real liability, right? And over here is the equity. So it's like more understandable, right? If we call this one sources of fund rather than calling the entire column on the right-hand side here as the liability. So that is the one more thing that I would like you to remember, because we will deal with the bank management after. The first one, what will be the first item on this side, guys? We have what in here? Very first one, very important one.
Not receivable.
What is this one?
No,
Deposit.
receivable.
Deposit, right? Yeah. And then have in here, we have, well, I'm sure that you have Mr. Nine, right? This one will be checkable, checkable account, checkable deposit, right? And we have something here is non-transaction or non-checkable and non-transactions. Sorry, transactions, deposit. So it's kind of small over here, so I don't put more. And in this checkable deposit, there's something like MMDA. You should remember for me, keep in mind, because this will affect your answer for the exercise later on. This one will not know reserve. All right, no required reserve is needed for this kind of guys. We remember that for deposit, right? We need to make reserve at the central bank, and then the rest we can lend out. But only for MMDA, there's no required reserve will be needed for this case, and this one is applicable in US, not in Vietnam. In Vietnam, we don't have something like MMDA over here. All right, that checkable deposit and non-transaction deposit. And in non-transaction deposit, I need you guys to all the time remember about saving account and like time account, time deposit, right? Saving deposit and time deposit. In Vietnam, we call them tiền gửi có kỳ hạn. And checkable deposit, we call them as demand deposit because this will be withdrawn or will be asked to pay on demand of their client. So if the client demands the bank to make payment for the third party, the bank cannot say no, right? That's the meaning of checkable deposit. Will be done, will be executed on the demand of the client. And that is not the case for non-checkable deposit. There will no kind of like function, writing check for the third party or make payment for the third party or make payment for the goods and services that the client consumes. So this one will give you like a certain amount of deposit, a certain amount of interest payment, right? And the second part of this source will be, what will be this, guys? What will be in here? I'll make this one 3. What is the second component or item in the balance sheet of the bank over here? Do you remember?
Borrowing.
Borrowing.
Ui.
Good.
Nhẹ điện rồi.
Okay. So this is borrowing. And they can borrow the money from any sources, right? Deposit is also kind of borrowing, but it's not in the real name of borrowing. It's not like in the name of like lending, so we cannot call them borrowing. We just put it here. The commercial bank can borrow from the other bank, right? From the other bank, borrowing from the public through like issuing bonds, right? And they also can borrow from the Fed as well, from the Federal Reserve, from central bank, I think, and through some kind of like discount window and so on. So this is the main sources of fund that commercial bank can reach out to get the money to for their operation. And for the asset side, you could remember this one as the ways that bank use their money. So bank uses a fund, all right? So when we summarize this one for you guys, you should like pay attention and remember for long, because you don't need to, if that's so, you don't need to go back for this one to review for the final examination or midterm examinations. So keep in mind this one for me, the way that the bank use the fund. Okay, I got the money. How do I spend that amount of money? So I put in this kind of thing on the left-hand side, on the asset side. So the first one, the very first one will be, what in here, guys? First item.
Như là loan and
The very first one should be reserve, right? I take in the deposit to make sure that I will not run to the very difficult situation that I cannot handle. I cannot handle, so I have to put in the reserve. Remember, for me, we have required reserve will be on the decisions or regulation by the central bank. Reserve, excess reserve, dự trữ dư thừa, right? And one bắt buộc, one dự trữ dư thừa. So excess, I'm sure that you know, excess reserve is not for like difficult time, but also for the normal season as well. They consume, they are type of deposit from different people in the economy. Some deposit money 3 months, for some deposit money for 1 month, and some deposit money for 3 years, for example, right? So the maturity of this deposit are totally different from each other. We need to keep that excess reserve so that at any time that the customer bring their notebook or the passbook, bring their saving account note to the bank and ask for their money back, I can like give the money back to them because that's the end of the maturity. But also excess reserve will be very like super important in the case that bank can like can be exposure to the bank run situation when a lot of people rushing to the bank asking for their money back, right? So excess reserve could be used in two kind of situation. One is the normal case, ordinary case for the bank business, and the second one is like severe case when bank run can happen. So for that one, the excess reserve will be up to the bank's decision. Each bank will have different like choice or different decisions on how much money they give in the excess reserve, except for not counting for the required reserve. And the second one will be lending. There will be some like business loans, right? And there will be some consumption, individual loans, right? The for buying car and so on. Today, for the exercise, it will be mortgage loan here or no mortgage loan, and there will be some kind of lending to the other bank. Sorry guys, I lost the connection, so.
Recording in progress.
I'll put the other one over here again. Could you guys hear me for the last minutes of this? Liabilities over here. You know, so we have deposit. We have the second one, borrowing. We have third one, buying capital. And the first one, reserve. We have a second one, lending. We have a third one, deposits at the other bank. Number 4, securities investments. And we have number 5, other assets. Could you guys follow, guys? Are you all right? All right, so sorry for my connections, just lost. The first one that we need to care about the basic operation. Basic banking operation that is keep 3 of them. The first one, asset transformation. Did you learn this one earlier? And let's check again. Make sure that I'm not talking the one that you have already learned. Did you? Các bạn học cái phần này chưa các bạn? Các bạn lại không nghe gì à? Hello. Hello guys. Did anyone listening to me? Be listening? Anyone? Hi there. Anyone in the class? Các bạn nghe được cô nói không? Cái gì không nhỉ? Let me. Không nghe được à các bạn? Sao nhỉ?
Có ạ.
Đấy bây giờ cô mới nghe thấy này, các bạn có nghe được không?
Có ạ.
Bây giờ đã nghe được ổn chưa?
Ổn rồi ạ.
Ok. Sao vừa nãy cô không nghe gì luôn? Okay guys. Các bạn đã học cái phần này chưa nhỉ?
Payment ạ.
Cái basic banking operation ấy. Asset transformation này, maturity transformation các thứ là đã học chưa?
Chưa ạ.
Học rồi gì? Thì cô không nói nữa nhá.
Chưa ạ.
Thế à? Lúc nào vừa bảo rồi. Okay. Asset transformation, this one is the easy one. Then we will move to the bank management. So for the first one, basic banking operation, what do they mean by telling this? So I will put here a little bit lower, then I can make example for you guys. Asset transformation, that meaning that referring to the situation like with the existence of the banking system. So the bank can transform the assets from one ownership to one owner to the other owner. Just think of the case like this one. For the client making deposit to the bank, for the clients putting the deposit into the bank. All right, to the bank over here. So it's like this is the client money, right? We must say, right? Money, assets. And the banks then use the money to lend out to the firm in the economy throughout something like credit or business loan, right? And then the firm. And if the firm consider this one as a debt, the debt to the firm, then that will be the situation of the bank. In this case, the loan become the bank's assets, right? So we just based on one transactions, and we just like rely on two different parties in one transaction to define which one is that and which one is the debt owner and which one is the assets owner. So for the case of the relationship between the clients and the bank in terms of deposit, so the deposit will be the client's assets, but that will be the debt or the liability from the bank. But if we break down the relationship between the bank and also the firm, we can think of like for the firm side, the loan will be the firm debt, but on the bank side, the loan will be considered as the bank assets because that money coming out of the bank. I don't care how do you get that money, but I lend you that money, so I am the owner of that money. And the other situation we would talk about it in the other time or the other occasions. So in this case, with the existence of the bank over here, you can see like the ownership of the money is transferred or transformed from client to the bank. So we call this one like asset transformation from one owner to the other owner. That transformations, right? And the second one, maturity transformation, meaning that with the existence of the bank, some of the short-term product, right, short-term deposit, could be transformed into like long-term loans or credits. And the second option is this one, like long-term deposits will be used for finance short-term loans or credits, right? So it's like you can see like will be normal if the bank collect the short-term deposit and use this one to finance the short-term credit. But here we have something like maturity transformation. From one side of maturity, they can be transformed to the other side of like a maturity, like from short-term make it long-term, and from long-term deposit make it short-term credit. So there will be something change in the maturity, right? It's all about changes. This one changes in assets, right? And in assets, this one changes in maturity with the involvement of the commercial bank in middle of the way. So if that's short term for short term or long term for long term, so it's not a problem to think of or to discuss here. But I have two cases over here. I mark this one as number 1 and this one as number 2. What could you think of the benefits and the risks of these cases? So what will be the benefits or the risks of the bank? And it's happened in the real life already. So there's a lot of like bank taking short-term deposit and finance that for long-term loans. And also at the same time, we have banks that like accepting the long-term deposit and so make short-term loans. Sometimes it's not the decisions of the bank because you know that deposit will be on the client demand. So if they want to deposit money with the bank, they will put the money in, and the short-term or the long-term maturity, that will be on the customer decisions to make, right? Not from the bank. But bank lending to the long-term or short-term loan, that will be on the bank side decisions. So why do that happening? Why do we have this kind of maturity transformation, short to long and long to short? What will be the benefits and the risks over here, the risk exposure over here? So I give you guys like 2 minutes to think. You can like make the number to make it easier to understand and compare. What could be the risk over here and will be the benefit for the bank?